Hello, 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 and welcome back to another edition of Red Lipstick Talk.
Hey, got my lipstick on. Got my
Yes,
lipstick on.
put the red lipstick on.
How you doing, Renee?
Oh my God! So I'm good. I'm good. So I'm actually excited because I was just on this meeting assembly, and I was saying
Mm-hmm.
you have to feel like Forrest Gump. I joined this assembly for Tantra in Brazil, and didn't realize we were going
Exciting.
to be voting on stuff. But it was nice. It's nice. After this live, I'm going back because apparently it's 5 hours long. How are you doing?
5 hours.
5 hours.
And and what do you
Wait, so I
guys?
just I just have to say, so that's a classic Brazilian thing, right? We're in Brazil. So this meeting was supposed to start at 7 o'clock. I ain't throwing no shade, but literally they started at like 7:45. Literally like 7:45. They're like, oh, wait for people to come on. And then I'm like, so I sent a private message to the host. I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to leave. So she was like, oh, it's gonna be 5 hours. So just come back. So I'm like, all right, I'll come back like 5 hours. So
Girl,
anyway,
I know.
yes. So how you doing?
I am good. I am happy that it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday.
Yeah, it's been. I think now we're at a point of getting like a routine, even though I think the first month of this quarantine pandemic, it was like shock and figuring out what to do. And now it's like we got agendas full and I got things to do. And just so you have an idea how our agendas are, my companion, Julie, she's like, now we have this thing where we have to sign up for the living room space or our other room to do activities. So she is, as I speak, doing her yoga class in the room next door because I was like, I had dibs on the living room tonight at 7 o'clock. So we have to schedule all of our
Yes.
activities, which is
Well,
great.
so
I think it means
mhm,
that people are, super really active
mhm.
despite everything. But it's just been funny because I think now we're just like, okay, this life that we have right now is predominantly virtual, and I'm still
Yeah.
getting used to it. And I have my issues around that.
Mhm.
But I've been taking really great dance classes with different teachers every day and different techniques. Germaina Sogini, who is a founder of African Contemporary Technique, she's wonderful. Every day there's classes with different teachers. Rosangela Silvestri
That's great.
Technique. She's from here, from Bahia, and her and Vera Passos and their whole team of folks are doing classes every day. So, yeah, trying to be strong, uh,
Yes.
physically, mentally, spiritually, because that's kind of how we need
And
our way
sexually.
out of this, right?
Right. And it's the same thing here. So where I live, we're doing the same thing because we have a few spaces. So like Friday nights, I'm like, okay, I got the library because this is like one of the great spaces. And one of the other
Uh-huh.
guys so I live with three people, and one of them, all three of us do like therapy kind of stuff. So one of
Uh,
them is always doing therapy. The other one does meditation, and he does lives as well. So he does his
yeah,
meditation live. So we're like, okay, trying to figure out all the spaces and reserving. And we're using Google Calendar to put our names on the space just because it's three of us.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so speaking of that, like you were saying, you got to be physically healthy, mentally
Mm-hmm.
healthy, and sexually healthy. And
Mm-hmm.
so, talking about being in Brazil, you know, you were talking about the Orishas, the deities here. So that's very
Yes,
strong. And
yes.
you want to do a dance, right? You want to do a dance
Yeah.
for us. So,
So I have a surprise
um,
gift.
now is this dance going to be about? Oh, okay. Because I was about to
Yeah.
ask what the dance was going to be about, but let's see.
So surprise
Yeah.
gift for you. Surprise gift for you. Surprise gift for our viewers. Surprise gift for myself is today. So Fridays, for people who are not familiar with Bahia specifically, on Fridays is a very sacred day because it's Oxalà's day. Oshala is the divinity. He's the great grandfather that was responsible for molding humanity, for molding our heads. And so every Friday is a day that he's revered. And so everybody who is part of the religion wears white. And it's just a day to sort of really contemplate and be in that more meditative space and to connect with the Ashe, with the energy of the divine Orishas that take care of us. So, in honor of Oshun, is our, one of the Orishas of divine power, one of the Orishas of divine sexuality. Wanted to share this little dance for you all. Okay, you ready, Renee?
I'm ready.
Guys, were you able to hear the sound when I played it, or should I share it?
Let me see, play it again.
Were you hearing it?
No, not hearing it.
Yeah. Okay, let me share the screen with everybody. 1 second. Yeah. So
while
screen sharing.
While she's sharing the screen, I love Oshun. And so if you guys watch Beyonce has done a couple things about Oshun, like her lemonade. And so Oshun is one of the goddesses that I love. And on my retreats, on my sacred sexuality retreats, we're always doing a work. We're going to the river and we do offerings for Oshun, just connect with her because she really is a goddess on fertility, creativity, sexuality. She's strong. She's loving, but she can have a temper too. So, you better watch out. You better watch out. And
So Renee, I'm not seeing how I can share my audio. So can I just send you the link and you play it from your computer? Is that possible?
I guess so. I don't know either.
Because it is only offering me the share screen option. And then it says share audio checkbox on the next window, but it's not appearing. So let me see. Okay, share screen, but then I share the screen. So, okay, found it. Share audio. Thank you, everybody, as we learn together.
Yes.
I just want to share. I don't want to share I might have to just do this. Okay, so are you seeing my screen? I just wanted to share audio though, so I don't know how to not share audio.
Oh, so.
Okay, well, I'm gonna just dance.
Okay. Okay.
It's showing my screen, right?
No, I took it off. I just put it on you.
My whole screen.
So you could play it. It's just on you. Okay, those people who are coming on right now, thank you for joining us. Nefertiti is about to start dancing for us right now. And so
dance for everybody.
She's gonna dance. So she was just setting that up. Go ahead, stand up. I'm just talking until you get started. So she's getting ready to dance for Oshun. All right.
Right, folks. Sorry, we're having technical problems. Now, okay, so I'm gonna push play and hopefully everybody hears the music.
It looks like you stopped playing. It looks like you stopped your screen, but I hear your neighbor's screen.
Can you hear it?
No, you're not sharing the screen anymore.
Okay, let me try it again.
Guys, I'm so sorry. She's trying to do this nice special dance for us, and we're not hearing the music for some reason. So bear with us, please. If you're coming on and you know anything about Oshun, please write, ask any questions that you might have. What are your thoughts on Oshun? So, as Nefertiti was saying earlier, in Brazil, they're really connected to the deities here, the goddesses, the orishas. And so on Fridays, you'll see a lot of people wearing white. and it's just so beautiful. Okay, there we go. We can't hear the music though. She's doing this beautiful dance, but we can't hear the music.
Okay, so I think that we're going to pause and we'll try to do this at the end of the show so we can continue with our topic.
Yeah, yeah. um, all right. Well, anyway, E for effort. Nefertiti was trying to do a beautiful dance to kind of honor
Yeah.
Oshun.
Sorry, folks.
So anyway, let's kind of go on to the topic. You know, um, anyway, so one of the things that we wanted to talk about
Okay,
today is about being in
so
the
what we're
quarantine
gonna do is
challenges while we're
we're
here in
gonna
quarantine.
keep going with our live.
I think she's not hearing me. Are you not hearing me, Nefertiti? I don't know what's going on. I think something's going on with the computer. Technical difficulties. So anyway, we're going to be
Hello.
talking about the quarantine sex challenges.
Hey, I'm back. Can
Okay,
you all hear me?
I can't hear you, guys. So sorry. So we're gonna be
Can
moving
you hear me
we're gonna
now?
be moving forward with the
Yeah.
quarantine sex challenges. So
Yes.
Nefertiti has a partner. I live alone, and there's just been certain things that we're experiencing here um, in Brazil, and I imagine that many of you may be experiencing that as well. So we just kind of wanted to talk about that and share. And one of the things that's been happening with me is so interesting is that and I know this is happening with other people as well because I've seen in different groups people talk about this. But I have these guys sending me unsolicited dick pics, and I'm just like, what in the world? Like, why would you send me a dick pic? And those who are just now coming on, yes, I said dick pic. You're like, what did I come into? So, the crazy thing is that I think that we're already touch deprived. We already experience hunger. And so now
Mhm.
being in quarantine and not being able to go out and connect with other people, have sex with partners or different people, or however you do it. Um, I think it's making people like be more stressed, more anxious, and people are really needing a connection. They're really needing, like, I had this guy in one of these groups that I'm in, never met me. And then he just, starts sending me text messages. And then he's like, oh, can you come over to my house? And I'm like, then he sends me a dick pic. Now it did look good. I was like, whoa, that looks really good. But I was like, it's not worth it. I'm not going over to your house just to have sex. Like, it's not
Yeah.
worth me catching this virus and being in severe pain, severe discomfort. And honestly, like, I have to, and I think what this quarantine is asking for us is to move from the first chakra, the root chakra of our survival
Mm,
skills, what we need, and moving up to the heart chakra and being more compassionate, being more empathic,
mm,
and thinking about
mhm,
other people. And so
mhm.
I live with other people, and one of those things is, what if I get it and I'm okay, and then I give it to someone else and then they die? Like,
Mhm,
how would I
mhm.
feel? So I have to not only think about myself, I have to think about other people that's around
Yeah.
me. And
Uh-huh.
so for me, like on a normal day, I might have been like game, but right now I'm like, no, no, you know.
Yeah, and Renee, it's interesting that you bring that. Well, that's very funny, by the way, but also, I don't know if this is just quarantine related or if it was something that was happening before quarantine. I feel like different people I know, especially cis gay men circles. The dick pic is like, I don't know, it's like sending a meme, like a regular, like people, it's just become so instant in a way. And there's like it's like insta sex or insta pleasure kind of attitude. And I think when you were telling me about this, one thing that you said is like, first of all, he didn't even ask if he could do that. And so really understanding like boundaries too, and
Consent.
and consent, and what that means now, like now that it's quarantine, it doesn't, why, like you mentioned, like it's about being more compassionate, and why is that still not translating?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you deal with that? Were you like,
would you want me to
I
say
mean,
what I
there's all these
said or
levels
what I did?
of shaming,
Right.
not shaming, but levels of just raising consciousness.
Yeah.
Woman's planning.
Well, I turned around and sent him a pic of me. No, I did at some point. But yeah, but in the beginning, I was like, hey, you didn't ask me if you could send the pic. Like, okay, so he kind of did without really asking. He was like, he said something like, not can I send you a dick pic? Like something like, oh, he is something. And then I was like, who is he? And then he sent the picture. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, honestly, like you need to ask permission first. So then he took it away. You know how you could remove the photo, whatever. So he took it back. And I was like, but it was a nice picture. But next time just ask to make sure that I would want to see
Consent.
it. Like consent. And
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. I'm like, yeah, I don't mind. I just want to be able to say yes, I want it, or no, I don't. Give me that choice. So Sabine says, what a small world. Her brother is a
Hey,
good friend of mine.
Sabine. How are you, Sabine? It's good to see you. Welcome to the show. Yes, I am in Brazil with Renee. The world is smaller virtually, but
Yes.
thank you for being here. Yay, Sabine.
Yay.
Shout out, shout out.
Shout out. So we met when I was in Thailand. So that's how I know
What?
Sabine from Thailand. Yes. When I was there, was it last year?
That's so small. Because Sabine's
Yes.
from the Bay Area. She's a Bay Area girl, like me.
Yeah, but she's lived in Thailand. I don't know how long she's lived in Thailand because when I went there, she had already been living there maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something. Maybe I'm adding more time. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Sabine, tell us where you are now in the world. Because I don't know if you're still in Thailand. I mean, yeah, Renee and I are in Brazil right now, but next week we don't know where we'll be. We don't know where the situation will be.
I'm gonna be right here. I think they're saying that we're not gonna. Trump is talking about banning travel from Brazil to the U.S. He's so
Yeah,
crazy.
it's a
So like he
mess.
doesn't even realize what's going on in his own country. Talking about not having people from there infect our people in the U.S. I'm like, do you not hear the word?
No, yeah, but it's not surprising that kind of xenophobic attitude,
Mm-hmm.
which he's had since he campaigned. We know that that's what he's about, is promoting hate and promoting,
Mm-hmm.
xenophobia. They're still deporting Haitians. I don't know if you saw this, Renee, but thousands of Haitians in the last 2 weeks, they're still deporting them to Haiti. So
Mm-hmm.
the immigration enforcement is still really active and really violent.
Crazy.
And yeah, it's horrible. So
So horrible.
so I think this is interesting, though, that we're talking about this in our talk that is about sex, because I think that we're constantly, our brains are like full of information about the crisis that we're in socially and, globally. And we also have these very intimate personal needs and desires, right? So, and you told me about this guy. You're like, well, his dick wasn't so bad. So I want to ask you, Renee, so you identify as someone who's single, right? You're heterosexual, yes,
Yes.
yes. Okay, so
Yes, like
I'm
I really feel like there's a continuum, and so that's a
okay.
whole other thing we could talk about. I don't feel like
Yeah,
anyone
I don't
one is
have.
completely hetero or homo.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. No, I
yeah,
didn't mean to pigeonhole you, but just to I mean, if you're like
yeah,
mostly dating men right now, cis men, I guess the question is how are you negotiating your personal desires and, you know, in terms of pleasure, in terms of pleasure, basically, at the same time that there's constant sort of not attacks, but constant kind of like bombardment on our emotional state.
Yeah. Basically is communicating and knowing what I want, knowing what's okay, what's not, and expressing that. You know, and so like with this guy, it was just, you know, I think because I'm in a moment and I'm completely fine, you know, this whole time masturbating on my own and connecting with myself. So honestly, I'm not necessarily feeling like I need to go have sex. Lord knows I've had enough to cover me for this quarantine. I'm good. Lord knows. I don't need none.
Gotta write that book.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, now that I'm, you know, I always used to say I got to write that book under a fictitious name, but now it's like, okay, whatever, write it under my name. So, you know, so I think the thing is just being true to where I'm at in a given moment. So, like, you know, when he sent that picture, I was just like, yo, I really want you to, I need consent. Like I need you to ask first and be clear so I could say yes or no. Now I was in a moment where I was like, okay, this is cool. We're in quarantine. I ain't having no sex. I can have some phone sex right now. So, you know, I continued on, you know, because that's what I wanted in the moment. If I did not, I would have just said no thanks and stopped messaging him, which I have done before. You know, I'm gonna give you another example. When I was in, I think I told you about this. It's not during a quarantine, but it's an example of this, which people might think is crazy. But I went to Mbasai and connected with this guy who I had known. And I was, you know, I stayed the night over there and I was sleeping and he was in his bed masturbating. Well, we were in his bed and he started masturbating at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like we hadn't had sex, nothing happened. And I was like, what the hell? Why didn't he go to the bathroom? But it turned me on. And I was like, and he's a fine guy. So I just took his hands and had him like, you know, finger me. And I had my orgasm. And then I went back to sleep. Like I didn't even want to have sex with him, but I got off. Like it turned me on and that felt good. And I feel like that's what I wanted at the time. So I had him do that and then I went to sleep. And I don't know, people might think that's weird or not, but like whatever. You know.
No, but I think the point about that story, which is thanks for sharing, go in the book. But what that brings up for me, and just reflecting on my experience, as so I'm somebody who's in a monogamous relationship with a wonderful, beautiful person, Julie. She's my companion, and she spends like half the time here and half the time at her mother's house. Her mother's disabled, so during this period, she's been helping out a lot more. And when you bring up that story, it reminds me of a conversation we had. We've just been talking about like, okay, so how are you feeling about where we're at sexually, you know? And it's been something where we've had this time to slow down, first of all, and then just be okay with whatever it is that we want in a particular moment or on a particular day. It's not always going to mean, you know, full on out foreplay. It's not always going to mean, you know what, like intensity. It can mean just holding each other and being there and embrace. It can mean that, you know, we do some things. It could mean that some moments were more experimental than others, but the thing that's been good is to like really be okay with checking in about, well, what is it that I want? Do I just want to like kind of be with myself here and not really necessarily have sex with her? Or if we do have sex, like what kind of sex is that? Like how intense is it? How much is it about me being pleasured? How much is it about her being pleasured or mutually being pleasured? And just checking in about about that, and that it's okay that there isn't this. I think the standard, even, you know, we both, me and Julie, struggle with it sometimes, is this, you know, penis penetration standard as being like, that's the standard of good sex, or, you know, a full experience has to involve penetration in some way. And you know, that's phallic, that's with a penis. But when that doesn't exist, there still is this like subconscious idea that we're taught that somehow there needs to be something that's similar to it, you know, so we don't give space to the other kinds of pleasure that we are offering each other that is outside of that kind of.
And that's actually good. That's actually good that you mentioned that, because with Tantra, there's a whole similar thing too, because a lot of in Tantra, for men, they practice semen retention. And so when we're in a relationship, I think that we have been conditioned, you know, like you're saying, to one, you know, as a woman, penis should enter, and two, he should ejaculate. And that's when it's done and over. And so I remember when I first started in the tantric world and having tantric sex, you know, my partner wouldn't come. Like, he would have orgasms, but he wouldn't ejaculate. And I was like, okay, well, are we done? Like, what's going on? And I had to really learn that not to expect that end goal, and not to feel like, okay, if he doesn't come, there's something wrong with me. Because I think that a lot of women are so used to, okay, this is how we know that sex is done. He came, maybe I faked coming, or maybe I did come, you know, and so, but it was that. And so there's so many different ways of having pleasure. There's so many different ways of having sexual experiences and sex. So it doesn't have to be with penetration. It doesn't have to end in ejaculation, you know. And so it's important to kind of change our idea of what it should be, what it should look like, and expanding to all the different possibilities, all the different realms of what sex can be and what it can offer us.
Yes. Yes. So for folks who are just joining, we're talking about this moment right now in quarantine, in pandemic crisis. How is it that we kind of like keep ourselves sexually healthy, whether we're home alone, whether we are partnered up with one or two or three people, whether we're distance relating? You know, how do we keep ourselves sexually healthy? How does that relate to also, we could talk about this in a second, Renee, but also ideas around the sacred that is sexual. So being in Brazil, both of us, and Bahia specifically, have had expansive relationship with the orishas, which are divinities that take care of people and the earth in different ways. And there's different divinities that sort of represent different kinds of power, right? And so I'll get to that in a second, but go ahead. Sorry, I have so many ideas, people. It's like my mind is just everywhere. But what I was trying to get to before we get to talking about orishas is, you know, I think that I really want to hear from you, Renee, or from folks out there who are dating in this quarantine. Like, are you able to do it? How are you doing it in a healthy way? Or are you choosing to really just like not date anyone physically, but still pleasuring yourself? How is that process? And how can people be safe to, you know, if they do choose to date people in this time?
Yeah. And I think that's a good question, because I have a lot of my clients, not a lot, I have a couple of my clients who have told me that, you know, they've kind of escaped this quarantine to go have sex with a new guy that they just met on, you know, Tinder or whatever. Even friends in the States. I've had friends in the States who said they met a guy and then they allowed them to come over to their house. So it's happening. And then I'm like, well, how do you know? Like, what screening are you doing? What are you doing to protect yourself? And they've all been like, oh yeah, we've just asked them if they've been following the quarantine, you know? And I kind of did the same thing with this guy. I had asked him, and I knew he wasn't, because he was out giving his tattoos and doing different things. So I was like, damn sure not going over there.
But that's the
Um,
thing that's crazy is like before it was already like, have you been tested for STIs? That was something that's a practice. And now it's like, well, there's this test that needs to happen, but not everyone can access it. And then it's
right,
such a new disease that we don't know kind of all those implications. So I guess it's
right,
kind of like pleasure or safety. And is there a way to
right,
have both is the question.
right, right. And I think that's what people have to navigate. Like, how do I have both?
Mhm.
Um, and I think that these are conversations that needs to be had because people are still uncomfortable to ask a partner to get tested. I had a
Mhm.
friend of mine who was like, "Yeah, I'm dating this guy and he wants to have unprotected sex, but should I ask him, to get tested?" I was like, "Hell yeah, you should. Like, if he wants to have unprotected sex, ask. Like, that's your right. Like, that's you need to be able to be safe."
Yeah.
And so people already have difficulties asking for tests to be done because they feel uncomfortable. And so you have that on top of this, of it not
Mhm.
being so readily available. And if it is, it might be expensive. I
Mhm.
know in the States they have free testing, but like here in Brazil, you can do private testing and it's like 300 reais or 600 reais, depending on which testing you do, whether it's the quick one or the longer one or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
and so I think a lot of people are putting that primal need first to have sex,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and
Well, then you
taking
should
that
just
risk.
douse yourself in alcohol and wear a mask.
Well, so what people are saying that they're having someone come in and wash
Uh-huh.
their hands,
Mhm.
take a shower, wash your hands with gel. I definitely think there's certain positions like doggy style because you're not
Mhm.
face to face. So positions where you're not
Mhm.
face to face
Yes.
and you're using protection, that's going to help to make sure that you're safer in that
Mhm.
sense. So
Mhm.
Andrea wrote something here. Let's see what she says. Okay,
Yeah,
Andrea says, just got out of a relationship a couple of weeks ago. It was a bad breakup. It was not a bad breakup at
it
all,
was
but
a bad breakup.
it was not a bad breakup. She clarified that, but still
Okay.
need to release and detox him. Heart chakra is open. Not haunt sex with anyone during quarantine. Haven't self pleasured either, but working my way back to that. Been doing lots of self care through, though, like looking at myself naked in the mirror and appreciating my body. So
That's
that's so
beautiful.
so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I think that, one of the things right now is definitely the time to open up the heart chakra. Heart chakra
Mhm.
is open. So that's good. Yeah, this is, you know what, honestly, you just got to have a breakup. Right now is the best time to work on yourself, connect to yourself.
Mhm.
When you feel ready to start self-pleasuring, it will happen. Like it's really good. And I have to say, I have a Patreon account, and on that, I have a self Sunday exploration, Monday meditations and tantric Tuesdays, Monday masturbation Mondays for this month. And I'm really teaching people how to self pleasure. Like I go
Mhm.
in step by step, starting with looking in the mirror, connecting to yourself, how to touch your body. So, Andrea, if you're interested, go to my Patreon at Pandada Prim and check that out. Because it's only I have memberships from $5 to $50 a month, and it's so worth it because even for $10 you get Sunday self exploration, Monday masturbation Mondays, tantric Tuesdays, and I'm really getting people, guiding them through different meditations to work on their heart chakras, work on all the chakras really, and balancing. I did mantras for each chakra, and
Mhm.
that's so important to do right now during this quarantine.
Is the mantra. And also, Renee, I think, thank you, Andrea, for sharing that, first of all, and, just kind of being vulnerable in this virtual space with us and sharing your story and sharing the process that you're in. We've all been through breakups, and not to say that it's the same as yours, but, we're there with you and you will transform and you're already on the right path. And I wanted to connect with what you said. Now, if we can jump, Renee, to the point I was saying about our shoe, because I think it totally relates. So, Oshun is Yoruba Orisha divinity. Yoruba are the people from Nigeria, are a people from Nigeria. Many came to Brazil during the 18th, 19th, 20th century. Some were brought to work in the slave economy, and others did not. And so here in Brazil, in Bahia specifically, the relationship that you have on a day-to-day with these entities is very strong. And Oshun, her presence, so first of all, she is an Orisha that Oshun, Orishun means the source. So she is understood as the Orisha that's connected to the waters, fresh water, the rivers. She is sort of the blue waters. She is the waters within which we're born. So when you think about the womb and the water that's in the womb, she's connected to that sacred water as well. And she's also connected to the sexual power of creation. So sexuality, you know, it had, and sensuality has this power in this place, but it's because it's connected to the power of creation, and not just human beings, but the power of being creative, the power to regenerate yourself at different moments after the storm, after the flood. And so I was going to dance for y'all, but it didn't work technically, so I'm sorry about that. But she is this divinity, and, you know, I can share a few references that I have. But she is a divinity that encourages us to go deeper with our sexual power, as this power to create and as this power to sort of illuminate all the different aspects of our lives. And one of the ways I connect with her, so there's a lot of undulation, right? If we think about water, if we think about where the water exists in our body, in our sternum, in our spine, you know, and just really taking time to connect, even with a mirror, right? So water is reflective. She's oftentimes represented with the symbol of the mirror, and not in the way that's often shown of her being sort of in this vanity kind of sense, but in a way of really recognizing who's there and the power of that person there, and how is it that that person moves in the world, right? So really thinking about activating, you know, also our pelvic region, our hip region. These are areas that really help to just generate also a sense of grounding, and a sense of power in the world.
Yeah, and our second chakra is the water element, right?
Yes.
So when you think about that flowing motion like the water, like you're talking about that ocean energy, that's our second chakra. And our second chakra is our creative energy. It is our sexual energy. It is our fertility, you know. And so thinking about how we can incorporate that in terms of being more fluid in our lives, releasing the rigidness, releasing any inflexibility, you know, because that's what blocks us. That's what blocks that sexual energy from flowing. And when we open that energy from even just doing dances where we're moving, we're going with that, we're doing that fluid motion, we're moving the pelvis, the hips a lot, that really unblocks that energy and allows us to be able to create. And we are co-creators in this life. So we're put here to create, you know? And so that's really important. And when we're working with Tantra, we do a lot of those movements. We work a lot with these chakras, balancing these chakras, you know.
Yes.
And so that's something, you know, even going back thinking about what Andrea said. And you know what? With the name Andrea, I never know like if it's Andrea or Andrea. And I know they're very specific, like, no, my name is Andrea or Andrea, but reading it, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correct, so I'm sorry, but feel free to correct me. But you know what you're saying when, you know, you're thinking about the energy of Oshun, having the mirror. And like you said, Nefertiti, is not always about having it in that vain sense and that vanity sense, but connecting. Thank you, Andrea. Perfect. So, you know, being able to use that mirror, looking at yourself. And one of the things I like to tell women to do is look in the mirror and say, I love you, and connect to yourself. And then also use that mirror and look at your vagina, your yoni, and connect to her too, because women don't do that. And so that's so important, you know, so important for us to do to connect with our bodies, connect with
Yes.
ourselves, connect with our sexuality, because honestly, our sexual energy is the most powerful energy there is. And when we awaken that energy of Oshun,
It's
there's nothing
powerful.
we can't do. We can
Like
manifest anything.
I want to ask everybody here, if you just move. So for those who don't know me, I work with the body. I'm a dancer and performance work, so I move a lot. Different regions, but there's some when you sort of plant your feet and just wave your hips, just wake up your pelvis and your spine. You're making space. You're making space, and you're celebrating the fact that you have water in you. And this isn't just for cis women bodies, cis female bodies. The ability to connect to sacred water, the ability to connect to sacred feminine creative energy is something that everyone can activate and connect to.
Yes.
And it's, just kind of ask yourself, when was the last time I let my hips sway back and forth and to and fro, just to let them sway, And if we did that even just washing dishes, sometimes because now, I can't perform anywhere, I can't do classes. So I've been doing things at home, and sometimes I'm in the kitchen, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna connect with myself, because all we have right now is this. Like, this is what we have. So how much potential is there that I haven't paid attention to because I've been doing so many things outside of this, right?
Right. And let me just say hi to the people that's coming on. Hello, Carlene.
Hi.
Hello, Ray.
Hey, Ray, swaying your hips.
Yes, swaying your hips right
Yes.
now. Go ahead, girl. Hello, everybody. Feel free to comment
Sway
any
your
thoughts,
hips.
questions that you might have. And you know what? This is why I actually love belly dance. So I used to belly dance
Yes.
many years ago. And you remember when I was in Salvador, I actually performed tribal
Yes.
belly dance. And that moving the hips is so powerful, and it's so good. And it releases all of that block, that stagnant energy down there. And it helps to strengthen our spine as well. And so it's so important for us to have, a healthy spine, fluid spine, and the hips. And honestly, let me give y'all a secret. If y'all are swaying your hips and doing these movements, it's gonna make y'all better at sex. It really is. It really is.
With yourself and with others.
Yes.
Because swaying, right, contracting, so contracting in and expanding, those are movements that, when we're talking about Oshun, those are kind of her elements and her characteristics. Is she will contract when she needs to, and she'll let the waters flood when it's necessary, right? And knowing our waters can flood and that there's power there, there's this other aspect of knowing how much power do I give to this space, to this person, and you sort of start to perceive, and you're more mindful of just your personal power. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Here, cheers to be more mindful of your personal power.
Well, I think, Renee, since we're talking about the challenges of sex in quarantine, is it's been, it's kind of been that. I think, that I have a couple of single friends who've been like, we've had, I met up with someone and I needed to have sex in that moment, and it was great. That's fantastic. But, how can we make sure that we're being safe? And, I think the things that Renee mentioned about thinking about the positions that don't imply so much face-to-face contact, right? Because we do know that transferring in saliva is one of the main ways that things transfer. And is there foreplay that is more distant? I don't know. I'm having a hard time imagining and being creative, but I think if you think about sexual creativity with the priority of safety, I'm sure there's all kinds of possibilities of things that can happen.
I mean, honestly, there's so many different positions you can do, honestly. And I think that I know it becomes uncomfortable, but wearing a mask is going to be like wearing a condom now or dental dam, And so those are things we have to think about. If you don't have a dental dam, you can't afford a dental dam, get saran wrap, like for real.
Yeah.
That helps. Get some saran wrap, put it, you know, you can still do oral sex. Um, Use a condom. If you can't, like, you know, doing those things so that you can still have pleasure if you want to be with someone else. And yeah,
Hmm.
like, you have that like laying down. I don't know how to describe it where, but like he's behind
The
you when you're
scissor.
lying down. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You have the scissors. You have the you have so many different positions that you can
Yeah.
do. And I know that kissing is such a big part of sex, and like we love to kiss. But if you're meeting this person on Tinder and you don't know, you might have to like forego that kissing right now. You know, unless you want to put saran wrap between your mouths. I don't know, but that might not be as fun. But
Or there's also, if testing is more available, like really doing that favor to yourself and to the
yeah,
other person, just so then you can kiss if you both know you're negative. I mean, it's the same sort of concept that we had when we think about STIs, okay, let's get tested and then we can do things more comfortably and safely and, peace of mind because we were able to get
yeah,
tested.
yeah. And I'm
So
so glad you're
I,
saying that. It's so important to reiterate that because I think it does give you peace of mind. It does help. And I know depending on where you are, most of the people on here right now that's commenting on the US, and they do have free testing. I don't know how easy it is to get that, but definitely if you're meeting someone, just asking, can you
yeah.
get it first? And that way I'll feel more comfortable. And they do have the rapid test where you can get the results within, the same day, within a couple hours. So I would definitely recommend that. And then it just
Yes.
and then while you're at it, especially if they're new, tell them to get everything tested, get STD testing and everything.
Just do
Because
everything.
yeah, just do it all. I mean, I tend to get tested anyway. Like I do once a year, unless I've, done something stupid and kind of like slipped up. Then I'll get tested and then do it again in 3 months and then again in 6 months. But I really try not to, do anything, unprotected or whatever. But generally speaking, I get tested consistently,
Yeah.
once a year. And I think it's just important. Even if I haven't been having unprotected sex, I still get tested just
Yeah.
as my way of knowing and being able to be safe, So it's so important.
Yes. 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 Yay, safe sex during quarantine pandemic. And, for those of you who are living with somebody and, I'll just share a little bit about how it's been for me, the impact it's had on our sex life. I think it's what it has done, I think I mentioned this earlier, is it slowed us down. So we were able to just kind of like slow, pause, and breathe and be sensitive to what I'm feeling I need in the moment and my companion is feeling she needs in the moment. And seeing if we align, and seeing also like where is there space for us to grow sexually and what are things that we still haven't dealt with that now we have the time to just look in the eye and deal with, right? So I think we've been, we've had moments where we, for a couple weeks what we really needed from each other was like tender touching and just like comforting, because I think we were both really anxious about what was happening. I'm really far from my family. Julie's mother's disabled and really, really high risk. And so there was just this anxiety, this feeling, and this need to be held and to be comforted. And we understood that that's what we wanted and needed in that time. And that is also sexual energy and a way of engaging sexually with people. And so just kind of being okay with that. I think there's, I mean, me personally, I have my moon in Scorpio and
Ooh.
my Venus in Scorpio. So there's a real,
Ooh.
so
Look,
my go-to is like,
if y'all
we
ever,
gotta get it down. We gotta
yes,
just go crazy all the time. And that's become in a certain way of how I deal with anxiety. So it's been
let
good
me
for
tell
me
you
to
real
be like,
quick. If
no,
y'all ever, if y'all ever break up, and I'm back in Salvador, and I want to explore more of the homosexual side, I'm gonna get with you. Because I'm a Virgo. So Virgo and
Yeah.
Scorpio, ooh, child. Mm, wow.
So Renee, you have an idea of how this has been for me. But no, channeling that sexual urge into taking care of my body. I've been dancing a way lot more. I've been where do I channel that creative energy? And also understanding, uh, uh, not necessarily orgasming and coming as like the climax of my sexual pleasure. So it's been a good lesson for me because that's kind of been my tendency has been to really go crazy Scorpio style. Um, and yeah, so it's been good to see this other side of me and to also not to take that pressure away. There was sort of this internal pressure that I felt to perform a certain way, right? To sort of go in this sort of place that's intense. And now I'm realizing how much I can channel that desire and that intensity into other things that are not necessarily in the sex world. So, and it's been great. I mean, because then we actually do have sex and there is orgasm. It's something that's more profound. It's something that's much more deeper. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I think the good thing is to understand is that there's so many different ways to express our sexuality and to express having sex, and so that's so important. And so knowing that each week might be different, each day might be different. One day your partner may not want to have sex, and you might want to have you might just want to fuck the hell out of her or him, with somebody else. And being able to honor and respect that and
Mhm.
saying, okay, what is it that you need in this moment, and being able to give that.
Yeah.
And then, and for both people, and each couple figuring out, okay, what is it, and talking through, okay, what's going on, how are you feeling?
Mhm.
And and once you're able to kind of meet those needs, then the next week y'all both might be in the same mood to just have
Mhm.
mind-blowing sex,
Yeah.
um but also understanding and recognizing that comes in many different forms, because again,
Yes.
that's what tantra is about, helping you to expand your sexuality, and not just thinking this is how it has to look every time you
Yes.
know
Yes.
and I think even for me, some of the most beautiful sexual moments that I had were when we were just cuddling, and just holding each other.
Oh, I'll hold you,
Because-
Renee, one day.
Aw, I can't wait to get back to Salvador to be held by you.
It's
And
important. It's
it's
important.
important. It's important. And I think it's also important knowing that there's no end goal. Because sometimes you feel like, okay, this person has touched me just because they just want to have sex right now. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Mhm. Mhm.
sometimes sometimes just having fun, like dancing together,
Mhm.
or just massaging each other. And so
Mhm.
realizing that sometimes you just want different things, and it's
Mhm.
okay. It's
Yes.
okay, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yep, yep, yep.
Okay. So, Renee, I think does anyone want to answer this question? What has been your challenge during this quarantine? And what have you discovered, perhaps, um, during this quarantine, during
Yes.
this pandemic? And if people don't want to answer, then I guess we could start wrapping up. And I wanted to offer, if folks are interested, including you, Renee, since I couldn't dance, since I couldn't figure out the technology of the browser and all that jazz, I have my kabasa, I have my shekere, and I can play a little bit if people want to sway their hips, if people want to
Yeah.
dance a bit, connect to the water
I,
energy.
I think that's awesome. Go ahead and do that while people might be thinking to write questions that they might have about this, what challenge that they have, or just weigh their hips. I think that's a beautiful way to kind of wind down and close out.
Yes. Okay.
Do it.
Here we go.
Oh yeah.
That was nice, Renee.
That was awesome. I got to move my hips too.
Gotta do it.
Thank
Gotta
you.
do
So,
it.
so thank you guys for coming on. This has been really good, really great. So basically, make sure you're just kind of getting tested before you take the risk of having someone come on. Um, so getting tested, make sure that you can just communicate your needs with people. Um, um, of your potential partners. Um, yeah, and yeah, I think just communicating and making sure that we're being safe.
Yep.
So I'm thinking about different positions that you can do, and there you have it. So
Yes.
yeah, so check us out, Nefertiti. If you want to give your information again,
Yeah.
you can join us and
So
Nefertiti, follow Nefertiti.
yes. Thank you, everybody. Love to dance, love to play music. Those are also sensual ways of expressing ourselves. And I just am excited. I'm happy that we talked about this, Renee, and that we sort of addressed this because our sexual health is tied to all these other aspects of ourselves, and to just be conscious of how we're taking care of it. Yeah. um,
Awesome. So you can reach Nefertiti if you're
yes.
not following her at Nefertiti_Charlene on Instagram or Facebook, Nefertiti Charlene. You
Yes.
got anything coming up that people should know about that's gonna be going on?
So, I live in Brazil, so half my life's in English and half of it is in Portuguese. So on Sunday, we have a weekly contemporary dance program. We do live improvisation. And if folks
Ooh.
want to check in, I will post it on my Instagram every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. This Sunday, we will be doing cure homage dance to one of our collective members whose father was in the hospital. So it'll be a sacred moment. So folks want to connect, see how we're dancing, how we're experimenting in this moment. 5 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll have it in my Instagram, the link.
Awesome. And I have a lot of ways to contact me. You can contact me on
Can't get
Instagram at
lost.
Prandada Prim. Yeah. You gotta find me either Renee Adolphi or Prandada Prim. So Prandada Prim Instagram, Twitter, Renee Adolphi, Facebook, Renee Adolphi, Patreon, Prandada Prim, website, prandataprim.com. So no way that you can say you don't know, couldn't get a hold of me. And just to let you know, June 12th to the 14th, I'm going to be having a sacred kink retreat, finding spirituality in your sexuality. So it's going to be really good because we're going to be teaching actually about communication, how to communicate what you need, how to express what you need, also how to about consent. And then through that, we're going to be teaching so many different things, just the basics, what you should know, just to be able to expand your sexuality, learn some different things about kink. This is a basic level 1, so we're not going to be doing all kinds of things like tying you up and choking you, teaching you how to choke, but really the basics about how to have great communication, consent. So check that out on my website, prandataprim.com. It's a sacred kink retreat. And then also June 1st, I'm starting a tantric basic course that's going to be teaching sound, movement, and breath work so that you can really work on doing the movement, working with the sounds to balance each chakra.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so and doing breath work to help us stay grounded, rooted. So that's important. And that's all. You can find all of that information on frondoutofprim.com.
Renee, just one more thing. If folks are interested in learning dances with me or popular music, I do private classes as well, Brazilian mostly, but also other formats. So yes, that's also an option for folks.
All right. And Kelsey, thank you so much for coming on. We are staying safe. Stay safe as well. Um,
Yes,
can't wait to get back to travel and connect to my peoples in the States.
yes.
So thank you everyone for coming on. Thank you for the comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This was
Thanks,
so much
everybody. Love
fun.
you, Renee.
Love you too.
Heart, heart,
All right.
heart shot for you.
Bye, bye.
Ciao.
All right. So
Bye,
have a
everybody.
good one. All right. Bye.